So when we get completely done with this lesson, we will go ahead and print the PDF out, and you will submit that along with your drawing file. Okay. So let's, under items learned in this lesson, double click on the line that we just created, and then press enter, and then enter again. And under the text editor, you can add bullets and numbering. So let's add let's make it bulleted. Okay. So DT is for single line text. Press return. MT is for multi-line text. Let's press enter again. Scale should not be confused with viewport scaling. The command alias for scale is SC. Alright. And then let's click out of it. Okay, now I'm not quite done. There's one more command I want to show you. And this is similar to the divide command. Okay, I'm going to draw a visible line. Okay, and you remember the divide command. Okay, it doesn't matter how long this line is. If I type in, let's go ahead and set our DDP type, enter, and then select whatever point that you choose, and then let's use a 5% set size relative to screen. Okay. Now I want to type divide, enter. I want to select this object, and let's divide it into 10 equal segments. Okay. Now remember, this doesn't physically divide the object; it simply just places points equally spaced along the entire length. The new command that I want to show you, which I haven't found as many uses for it, but every now and then you can, so I want to tell you about it. It's called measure. Now, it is similar to the divide command in that it doesn't actually change the line. It just places points. Okay. Now, what's different between measure and divide is that measure, you define the distance between points. Okay. So, for example, this this line has a length of 31.7787. We divided it into 10 equal segments. So each line segment is 3.1779. Okay. Now, if we use the measure command, and we want to select this object to measure, okay, and specify the length of the segment at 3, for example. Okay. Now, every 3 units, it will place a point. Okay. Now, notice on the very end, this is just a, it didn't have enough to make 3 full. Okay, so it made 1.7787. There, it didn't make the last point is 1.7787 from the end. Okay, so that's the difference between measure and divide. Okay, and like I said, I haven't found as many uses for measure, but just as a tutorial, I came up with something. So I'm going to draw a line from the midpoint here. Make sure you have your midpoint object snap turned on, and then draw it to the midpoint of this line. Okay. Now, let's say that I want to place a hole every. Let's see. This line has a length of 10, so let's say that I want to place a hole every 2.6 units. Okay, starting here. All right. So the way I would do that is measure and select the object to measure, and then length of segment will be 2.6. Okay. Now every segment starting here has a length of 2.6. Now, where you can trip up on this command Alright, let me hit undo. Okay. Now, let's re-enter the measure command. Notice that I started counting from back over here, and it all had to do with where I clicked on the line. If you accidentally click over here on the line and type in 2.6, you'll see that the remnant is over here. Okay, in other words, it starts counting from this side instead of where we want it. Okay, so that's something to be aware of when you're using the measure command. So again, measure and click it over here so it starts counting over here, and then type in 2.6. Okay. Now I want to place a hole or a at each of these points. Okay. Now we're in an isometric view, so I'm going to just quickly show you one last command. Okay. And but first we need to well, I'm not sure that we need to do this or not. Let's type in EL, enter. Okay. A quick tutorial about isometric views. You're basically working on 3 different planes. Even though you're drawing in 2D, you're trying to create a 3D appearance. Okay, and one way to do that is to create basically 120-degree angles between your primary planes. Okay, and you know we've only been working in the XY coordinate plane. Okay, so just follow along with me, and we'll get into more of this next semester. But type snap. Okay, and we want to change our snap style from regular to isometric. So I'm going to type in S for style, and then enter, and then I want to select isometric, or you can type I and enter. Specify vertical spacing. You can just press enter. Okay, and now look at my crosshairs. Okay. Now they're different than they used to be because they're trying to adapt to these isometric planes. Before we go any further, let's go over here and turn off our snap mode. Okay, this is the vertical spacing that we just defined. Okay. Now at this point, I should be able to enter create holes on this plane. Okay. By the way, you can toggle. You want your crosshairs to look exactly like mine, and you can toggle between the 3 different planes by pressing F5. Okay, and I think we'll want the flat one here, so pay attention to the way my crosshairs are. Then type EL, enter, and now we want the ISO circle. Okay, isometric circle is basically what we want. Okay, and we'll specify the center of the ISO circle is at one of those points, and let's define a diameter of 1.25. So type in, well actually let's try a radius of 1.25. So 1.25, enter. Yeah, that looks fine. Actually, that's going to be a little close, sorry. So EL, enter. ISO circle. Center of the ISO circle will be here. Let's specify a radius of 0.75. Okay? And that, of course, needs to be on the visible layer. And let's just copy from node to node, and then we can turn off, make visible my current layer, and then I'll turn off the construction layer. Okay, so then we've created the holes where we want them. Alright, so let's add a little bit of information to our list here. So divide divides an entity into an equal number, let me zoom in a little bit so you can see, of segments defined by the user. Measure divides an entity at specified intervals. Okay. Now there's a lot of things that you can do. You can add symbols here, but let's go and just so we can experience this. Let's and not all text styles are able to do the same kind of transformations. But let's underline. You'll notice that bold is grayed out. That's the reason I'm saying that. for this particular text style. But let's underline all